Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. I'm Derek, your host. I'm a teacher of over 20 years and a certified personal trainer. As always, I'm not a doctor. We're not doctors. So before you begin any new programming, please check with your physician. And also, if you can jump over to the YouTube channel, if you're listening to this on Spotify and vice versa, give us a follow, like, comment, all that fun stuff. But without any further ado, I have a very awesome guest with me tonight. Karlla Rocha is a,
Fascia.
what did I do? Did I,
Fascia.
Rocha, is that what I said?
You
Oh,
said
man.
Fascia.
Oh, Rocha, shoot. All right, Karlla Rocha. I'm leaving that in because I can't believe I messed that up again. But Karlla is with us. She's a holistic fitness coach and a very patient woman while I try to pronounce her last name. Rocha. There we
Yes,
go. Thank you, Karlla, for joining me and being patient.
my pleasure. It's an honor to be here.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you get into the fitness world and in the coaching world?
Yeah. So the way I initially got into it was when I was 18. I was underweight and I just wanted to put on some muscle, feel healthier. And I put the muscle on relatively easily. And then I became a trainer at 18. And I went through like this extensive journey of building muscle, getting fully immersed into bodybuilding. I was an NPC bikini competitor for some time. And I just went to the extreme of the sport. And in going through that extreme, I was just, all I knew was the physical. I didn't know anything beyond just my body and my mind. And when I went into this journey of kind of understanding myself beyond my body and my mind, that's where the whole holistic came in play because then I kind of felt myself on an emotional level and began to understand the fascia system and the nervous system and the implications it was having on my physical body. So just connecting everything together for myself and for my clients.
Awesome. And so that I don't know, transformation or that adaptation from focusing mostly on the physical to the nervous system and the fascia and all that. How did that transition start? Like what got you focusing on that piece of it?
Yeah, so the way it started was I have my company Results of Consistency and I had it for 4 years and the whole purpose of it was to get my clients consistent results and it was working. Every single client that came into the company got results except one. And I lost it. I'm like, why? What is going on? And it's a bit extreme what I did, but I just felt compelled to do it because I really needed to understand why.
Yep.
So she needed to lose 60 pounds just to get into the healthy range. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna gain the weight that you need to lose because in my mind I thought it was so simple. I thought that thermodynamics, calories in, calories out, like I could do this, right?
Wait a minute. Sorry to interrupt you. To help your client get through this, you put
Not,
on the weight that they needed to lose.
yeah.
Karlla, talk about going above and beyond for a client. That's amazing.
I really wanted to understand her. You know, it's like what I was telling you before about being so immersed in the physical is I was really cold and I really lacked empathy. So I had trouble understanding why someone can't just stick to a program. Like, why can't you follow a diet plan and an exercise plan and get results, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out. And when I did that, when I gained that weight, I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much deeper than just calories in, calories out. And that's where I developed an understanding of fascia. So fascia, the fascia system is pretty much, Derek, have you ever heard of the body keeps the score?
I have not heard that phrase. No.
No? Okay, so that phrase, the body keeps the score, is referring to um everything that is going on in our inner world, our body is absorbing it and holding on to it. So when we don't process emotions and release it, your body's carrying that. So that's really what was happening is like when we develop these knots and these adhesions in our fascia, it's our emotional body is holding on to that. So it's almost like we
Can
have
I interrupt you quickly?
weight.
Can you explain what the fascia is for people who
Yeah.
don't know what that is? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Sorry. Yeah, so The fascia is the connective tissue that surrounds your muscles and your nervous system, and it's constantly sending communication to your nervous system,
Okay.
right?
That's a very
So
good way to explain it. Yes.
yeah, so when your fascia system is holding on to all this emotion, all this trauma, it's interfering with the communication that it's sending to your nervous system.
That's
So someone like my client who wanted to lose that weight because she's carrying this kind of weight in her emotional body, it was interfering with her having that discipline to just execute the plan. So it's like she may mentally want to do it and have every kind of like um consistency to do it, but it's like her body is fighting against it.
Now, when you say her body is fighting against it, would it be because I mean the to simplify weight loss as much as possible, like you were saying, calories in, calories out, exercising, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, all the normal stuff we talk about. Are you saying she wasn't able to consistently do the things she needed to do, or
Mhm.
she was doing it, but the results weren't coming like they should have?
Exactly. Yeah, she was doing it and the results wasn't coming like it should. And that's what was so frustrating to me was because here's a woman, she's checking in every single week and not getting results. So it's like heartbreaking to her. It's heartbreaking to me. I'm trying to figure it out. And the other thing that's going on in our body when this is happening is our nervous system most likely is in fight or flight. And as you probably know, when our nervous system is in fight or flight, our cortisol is up. So then it's like our hormones now are interfering with everything. And then it's like, as a coach, what do we do when um a diet that we're putting in place isn't working, an exercise plan in place isn't working, addressing your gut microbiome isn't working, all that isn't working. What's next? You know, so then I figured I need to connect this all together and focus on all four bodies. So your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, your energy body, because they're all working together. And it's when it's not being addressed like that, when we don't address the emotional health, how are we going to consider the physical health? Because for
Yeah.
example, let's say someone comes in, they have a fantastic workout with you, and then they go home and they're stressing out with their partner or like getting into these arguments. And you know, like when you're stressed out, you get sick to your stomach.
Yep.
You're not going to want to eat. And then it's like there's so much chaos that starts happening in the body and
Absolutely.
all over. So that's where addressing it and like bringing breath work into things, having stillness just as much as movement, balancing being with doing. Because when they come to us to train, it's just constantly doing. We're throwing, you're going to do this at them. But we're never actually taught to just be. Like, what does it actually feel like when you're just being? When you're still. And when you start talking about that and just bringing the person to that state of just being and feeling what it's like to be themselves, they don't even know what that is or what that feels like. You know, I didn't. I had no idea what it was like to just like be still. Every time I was still, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. You know, like something's off. Like I should be doing something. Uh,
Yeah, that's an excellent point, especially when somebody's on this journey, quote unquote, to wherever they're going, body transformation, losing weight, whatever it happens to be. You're so focused on, all right, I got to eat this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and a lot of times the focus is on some future outcome instead of appreciating, showing gratitude in the moment for the things that you have. Um, and I think that helps, like you're saying, that helps a ton. There's a lot more good and to get to I don't even know the right terminology for it, but there's a lot of beauty in the world, and it you can choose to see it or choose to ignore it and look at the other sort of aspects of your life. Nothing's perfect, nothing's ever going to be perfect. You can find the negative or you can find the positive, and it's hard finding the positive all the time. I mean, we all have those days where it just doesn't go well, and that can spiral out of control. I think in if that is all you're focused on, then you're missing the bigger picture. So I love that you said that right there. That appreciating your being and where you are. I think if people are willing to do that more often, then there it's hard to be upset when you can see the beauty in the things around you and the things that you actually have.
Yeah, I think to go, even like a little deeper, I think some people may not be able to even cultivate that, to be able to just be, because their system is literally not letting them. It's like that's why I'm saying it goes beyond your mind. So like it's this all starts in like your childhood. And then when we don't address that and kind of reparent ourselves as adults, that interferes with our perception and how we're seeing the world and ourselves in the world.
Yeah, I've actually, and I wish I knew the individual. And I feel like this happens to me all the time here because I'm constantly trying to learn as much as I can. But it was around like age 7 or something in those habits that are instilled or those viewpoints. Like, every kid when they're growing up wants to either, I mean, I teach 10 and 11-year-olds, and half the class wants to be professional athletes or, things of that nature. Not everybody can be a professional athlete, but if it's instilled in their mind, like, no, you can't do that, or the limitations that are set, um, then that makes it really difficult as you get older to break those sort of chains and that mold that you have. And again, professional athlete is like the extreme of what some of these kids want, but even something as like uh, you're not good enough, or money is impossible to get, or whatever it happens to be, those ideas that are grounded in your head at such an early age are really, really hard to change as you get older.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you put on this weight for this
You stuck
woman.
on that.
No, 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 I'm not stuck on that piece, which by the way is one of, you said like you didn't have much empathy. I can't think of a more empathetic thing to do for somebody, and I know you're trying to learn from their point of view, but I feel like that's the definition of empathy. Um, Once you got to that point and then you started on that path with your client, what did you learn?
Oh my gosh,
And
that's
I
where
know that's a big question with a lot of answers, I'm sure, but I'm very
he,
curious.
yeah, so what I learned was like that's where quantum physics started coming in. And I
Love
started,
this.
yeah, so then in this place, so for one, the first thing that happened is like my identity crumbled. I had no sense of identity anymore. No sense of like, who am I? Because when I would look in the mirror, I saw someone that I didn't even recognize. So then, like, that person who took their body and their physical appearance to the extreme didn't exist anymore. So I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I now? Like, outside of being a competitor or how I look, like what else was going on for me,
Yeah.
Because like I don't have this anymore. That's not me. So then I was forced to look within and like discover like what else, like who really is Karlla beyond what I do. Who am I when I'm just like being me? And that's where I just started meditating a lot and began to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. And the way I understood that was because now that I was this overweight person, my vibration, Derek, was so low, like to the point that I became pessimistic. Like
Oh,
everything, yeah, everything that like I'm in a conversation with someone, they could say something super happy, and I would have a very negative response. And I was just seeing the world in such a negative lens and just so dark. And just there was just like no joy to me. It was bizarre. Carl Jung calls it the dark night of the soul. Are you familiar with Carl Jung?
no.
So Carl Jung is he's the father of analytical psychology pretty much. So I started just going deeper into my mind when this happened. And the more I went to my mind, the more I'm analyzing myself and becoming even more critical and just stuck here. And the more stuck I am in my mind and the lower my vibrations going, the more I start craving junk food even more. So then I'm looking for these lower vibrational kinds of foods. When like you're feeling really happy, you'll want more like maybe fruit or just healthier foods, right?
Yeah.
At least for me, that's how it goes. But when you're in this kind of like very sad, dark place,
Oh,
you
yeah.
crave those comfort
That-
foods. So that's what
that's
I began to
candy,
learn.
cookies, and ice cream for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I began to learn. So it's like, even if someone is sticking to a plan and following a plan, if they're unhappy within, they're still going to crave those foods that bring them that joy that they can't feel inside of them. That's why addressing the emotional health is just as important as the physical and mental and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I feel like I talked so much to answer your question. Did I
no,
answer
no, I understand. Like, and I was thinking, and I wrote down here, like, gain weight, mental toll. Like, I imagined as a competitive, bikini fitness competitor, like, physically, that was your focus, and now that's gone. So now it's got to go deeper than that. So how long ago was this where you took this
your
journey of yours?
My last show was 2022. So I've done two shows. 2021 I got second place, and then 2022 I got first. And then I'm just
Congrats.
like, I might as well just go for it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's why I thought it would be so simple for me, because if I can win these shows, then I could easily gain weight and lose the weight again. And it's like life rudely awakened me and said like, stop being cocky, and just I had like almost kind of like this arrogance to me where I just thought that I could always shape my body with my mind. But when my mind is defeated and in this place where it's so dark, my mind starts to shape my body, not the other way around, and it was a rough time.
I can imagine. Did like family members, I'm sure, that's obviously a big change. Um, were they concerned? I mean, I'm sure you had conversations about why you were putting on the weight and everything, but did they would notice the physical, but did they notice a change in you mentally and emotionally as well?
Yes. So at first, they just thought I'm like doing some kind of experiment with myself because I did this stuff like a lot. Not necessarily gain 60 pounds, but I would
Yeah.
always experiment and like try to understand my body through different modalities. But initially, they're just like, okay, she's just doing her thing. But then like time began passing and they're reaching out to me and I'm ignoring calls or I'm like, I don't want to go out and I'm just always home in the dark, not going outside. So then they began to figure out like, okay, something's going on with her, like I don't think she's all right. And I was fine. It was the first time in my life that I actually began to understand myself beyond who I had programmed myself to be. So who I was up until that point was entirely just programming based off of things that I was adapting to along the way in my life. So I was living my life as an adaptation to my environment, where something's going on in my environment, I go and I adapt to it rather than co-creating with my environment and being an active participant in it. It's like it really felt like I was just existing in my life instead of
So
living in it.
your environment was controlling who you were instead of you being you, regardless of the environment or anyone around it.
Yeah, I was kind of like shapeshifting to my environment and based off of what was going on. So, what I was really doing with exercise, and the reason I would take it to the extreme, was I was using exercise to avoid feeling, to
Right.
avoid feeling sadness, to avoid feeling like anger, to avoid feeling anything. So, for example, if I'm angry, I'll go exercise. If I'm sad, I go exercise. If I'm barely happy, I go exercise. And that was it. That was my outlet. So, I would never actually feel any emotion. I was extremely cold.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm processing all because this is fascinating to me that you took it to this like such a deep level, whereas most people are like, oh, I have to lose this weight because I want to look better, I want to feel better. Some people will go into more longer term. They want longevity, they want heart health and all that. Yours blew that out of the water. You wanted to figure you out, which maybe that wasn't the initial goal. It sounded like the initial goal was just to help your client. But then you kind of went into this place and literally and figuratively a dark place to kind of find out who you were. So
Yeah.
um, I'm curious, coming out of that, what was that like?
Well, it was quite beautiful actually because when you become nothing, you have the opportunity to become everything. So then it's like, what it felt like was, it felt, I actually have like this clear image in my mind of like the particular day where I had this vision of exactly how I was feeling. And it felt like I was a little kid in this white room. The room is completely white, and I'm holding this box of crayons. And I'm just very patiently sitting with this box of crayons and thinking to myself and observing myself, because when I went through all of this, I stopped being my mind because I would identify as my mind. And then through this process, I became the observer of it. So I'm this little kid holding this like box of crayons. There's all these white walls around me, and I'm like looking around like with this curiosity, like I get to do whatever I want to these walls, and then like a couple months goes by, and now like I'm having the same vision, but I'm painting the walls, I'm coloring it. And that was really what's going on, was like I began to consciously create exactly who I wanted to be, and it wasn't based off of like anything I had been in the past.
That's that's cool. That's real. I'm processing all this. So when you were, was this through meditation you were able to do this, or what did that look like when you were processing all this stuff?
um yeah, so definitely a lot of meditation. I'd meditate for like 2 up to 4 hours most of the times, because it was the only way I can understand myself, because when this was all happening, my body like couldn't work out anymore. It felt like when I was contracting my muscles, like I was hurting myself. Like it felt like my body had taken on so much stimulus over time from training and training and training that it just didn't want it anymore. And when I started to just meditate and breathe, I realized I'm like, I wasn't even breathing correctly. Like right now. So, for example, I don't know if you do any breath work, right? But most people, their breath pattern is very shallow. And when we're breathing shallow, 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 it intensifies that kind of survival mode for many people and keeps them in that go, go, go. Whereas, like, if you really just like pause for a second and just kind of, it does something to you, and your energy just finally starts flowing within you. And that's why I would meditate for so long, because I started feeling my energy flowing within me, and I never felt that before in my life. And when you're when you start meditating and it's so long like that, you go out of your mind, and it's not this mental clutter anymore. It's just this silence. And through the silence, you begin to just explore beyond. That's the best way to explain it.
So I imagine 2, 3, 4 hours of meditation. That's not a first time thing. That's a build. Like, how does somebody begin or how did you start with meditation? Because it doesn't sound like you were doing that with your initial bodybuilding in that piece of your training.
Well, the way it started was really, I just needed to sit with myself, right? So I'm like, let me just sit with myself. And I said to myself, I'm like, how long can I actually just be with myself? Like, how much do I like being with myself? You like, let's be friends really quick, Carla, And I was just curious. Like one day I just kind of put my timer on, and I was just like, how long can you sit with yourself and not go on your phone, not try to think about food, not go drink water, not do all this extra stuff? And the first time I tried it out, it was like 43 minutes or something like that. And it didn't feel like I needed to force myself to be with myself. It was just like curiosity. And then after that, I'm like, I like enjoy myself. And I
That's good.
sat there, and that's where the 2 hours happened. And then like over time, it just kept building up, and I was just developing like tremendous joy in hearing my body. Like I would sit there and I'm literally hearing my digestive system. I'm hearing my heartbeat. I'm hearing these things that I never heard before because I was always just in my thoughts, becoming them. And like the way my thoughts used to be was like a really serious inner critic where my thoughts would literally criticize everything I'm doing. and keep me in this like bizarre loop. And then as I'm meditating, I'm like realizing, okay, so my thoughts, they're not actually my own. And I started listening to the voices of my thoughts. And a lot of the voices of my thoughts are like parents' voices, people I've met over time. And that's where
Oh.
so much stuff, yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where we learn a lot of our stuff is influence from other people.
Hmm.
Excuse me. Um, so gosh, I have so many questions here, and I feel like I'm throwing them all out of order on you.
No, that's
Um,
okay.
so that's I've read a lot about going back to even the breathing techniques, in listening to, Dr. Andrew Huberman and other experts in different fields, the power of breathing correctly. Like you said, most people it's shallow. If you take your time and slow down your breathing, especially if you're getting worked up or upset or something like that, and you just calm yourself with breathing, like it has like scientifically proven positive effects, um, for the body, for the mind, for everything. And it's something that you have to practice and something that you have to be cognizant of, in order to do. I think the issue is we just get caught up in life, and how quickly did the last 2 weeks go? And even like how many times do you drive someplace and you think back and you're like, crap, that was a half-hour ride and I don't remember a single turn I took. Like, how did I get here alive? Because you're just not present in the moment. Your thoughts are going every which way, or you're singing, or you're talking on the phone, or you're everywhere but where you need to be at the moment. And I mean, it's impossible to avoid that at all times. I get it. Life does get in the way and throw things at you, but I think taking the time to try to learn what you've learned is huge. I don't know. Part of me feels like you've evolved beyond most of us at this point. Oh, that's crazy. So your client, how's your client doing? Were you able to
Yes.
connect?
My client, like, she lost weight for sure. That's the first thing. But I was finally able to connect to her at the level that she needed from me, which is really from my heart. So before this whole experience, I had a very closed off heart where if a client was getting somewhat close to me, it would almost make me uncomfortable because I didn't understand like how to keep that type of relationship because so throughout this journey I also understood my attachment style. Like I started understanding basic like psychology and just like having emotional intelligence, and I understood that like the closer someone gets to me, the more dismissive I become. So it's like it's almost triggering when someone starts getting close to me. And through this journey, it's like I broke my own heart to a point that it opened, and I just began approaching life from my heart instead of my mind. So instead of being super analytical and logic and trying to rationalize everything, I just became more like compassionate and just like started living from love and the state of like oneness, I guess you can say. Um, and just that's, yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
our relationship changed drastically.
That's a hell of a bond you guys must have got. It's an assumption, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine you go through that experience you went through, and then your client sees what you're doing for them.
She doesn't know I did it for her. I never
What?
told her.
Ah,
I never told her.
oh my God. I guess you can't say like, "Hey, I'm doing this for you. You better appreciate it." Like that wouldn't sound good. But she has no idea.
She has no idea.
I'm sending her this podcast. I don't know who it is, but I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna send it to her. That's wow. That's so unselfish because most people would want credit for
Aw.
doing everything you did. That's
Actually,
wow.
none of my clients know that I did this.
What?
I think they just think that like, oh, she probably just doesn't want to compete anymore, like no one knows like the actual reason behind all of it.
So what? happens if one of them actually listens to this? We get tens of listeners, let me tell you. Actually, no, we had 27 billion downloads on our last one, so
Wow.
chances are no, we didn't. I'm
Gosh.
lying to you
I'm
completely.
about to say congratulations.
No, 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 no. But I mean, there is a chance somebody hears this. That's I don't know. I'm just that's an incredibly, incredibly selfless thing for you to do. And not even like bring them along with that journey. But he or she lost the weight. They were able to go
Yeah.
through it. And have they kept it off? Are they doing?
Yeah, they've
Did
kept
they?
it off. They were able to continue their journey on their own. They didn't need to continue personal training. They essentially they went through the program of reprogramming, repatterning, rewiring, and actually like really embodied who they wanted to become.
Wow. Wow. Sorry. I apologize to the audience for the pauses here. I'm just, like I said, there's a lot to take in here. Um, All right, you had mentioned, and I have been kind of dorking out on this for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's funny that you're hopping on now, but the quantum mechanics and the quantum level. I'm an elementary school teacher. I have a master's in elementary education, so my training is not at that level, but the more I dove into the quantum level of consciousness and everything else, it is fascinating, even quantum entanglement, where you have different particles that split. Um, and you could do something to one, if it splits one of the electrons in one place and the other one's however far away, it has an immediate reaction without any signals going. Like, what did you learn in terms of the quantum level or that aspect of consciousness or understanding?
Well, that's the thing right there is that everything is consciousness to me and everything is energy. So that's why I started addressing the body as such. And that's why, like, I know you mentioned this was very selfless of me, which I guess it was, but it was because I'm not seeking to just um attain like a better body. I want to evolve and really like master my body and my mind and be able to manipulate energy because if we can manipulate and understand energy, we're not going to be controlled by our outer world because then what quantum is essentially teaching us is that our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So, as above, so below. What's going on up here is happening down here. And, you know,
No, yeah.
too much. I feel like sometimes I say too much at
No,
once.
no, not at all, Carla. You keep going. Don't let me stop you. Oh, like I'm fascinated by all this because there's a lot of scientific research and even like particles in atoms and certain things react differently when they're being observed than when they're not. And
Ex-
that those studies have been replicated numerous times. It's fact at this point in time that things will react a certain way if they're not observed, and then they react differently when they are. So yes, our consciousness, our energy, that stuff has an effect on the world around us. Now, I don't think I'm picking up buildings with my mind or anything. I'm not a Jedi yet. Maybe
Nope.
I'll figure that out someday, but there is a connection. It's just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what that is crazy. And you're well on your way in that journey.
Yeah. I mean, as we think, we become, right? That's what's going on. Like when it comes to observing the particles, how particles um change based off of the observation. It's what it's saying is if we think something, just our thought alone can affect it,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But
A lot of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. So then, like, if we're not aware of how our energy is affecting our thoughts, then we can't actually control what we think.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things I heard about when you're trying to uh, you're trying to better yourself, or you're trying to, become something else, like if you want to, it could be your job or family or whatever it is, instead of the mindset of I want to be this, you have to in your mind believe you are that. And then your life reflects that you are, right? I didn't say that clearly at
Yeah.
all, but the life reflects the way that you see yourself as opposed to the way you want to see yourself. Could not have
Yes.
said that less clearly, but
No,
I think
yeah.
got it out.
You're referring to the act as if principle. So there's this doctor, his what's his name? I think it's like Mark. I'll have to give his name to you one day. But the book he wrote, you have to check this book out, Derek. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. And it's about the subconscious mind, and he refers to the act as if principle a lot. And what he did was he did an experiment with basketball players. And one group had to throw a 3 point every day. They had to practice that shot physically with the ball. And then the other group, they could only imagine themselves throwing the ball. They couldn't touch the ball, and they had to do it every day as well. So the group that shot the ball every day like improves their score by like 32%, whereas the group that was just acting as if they were shooting the ball also improved their score without ever touching the ball.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that psycho cybernetics. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes because that sounds pretty interesting. There was a study done too, and that reminds me of it. It was looking at the top 25 tennis players in the world, and I don't know the date on this study, and comparing that to the top five tennis players in the world. And there was no real difference in skill level, speed, strength, any of that stuff. If you're in the top 25, you're a great athlete anyway. But the difference came in those top 5%. It was the mental side of things when, you're not going to do things perfectly every time. You're going to, have a bad hit. You're going to miss a point here and there. But it was the mindset afterwards of like, all right, this is what's going to happen next time. And it's not like, I hope that I can do this. It's like, all right, this is going to happen next time. So it's, you have that positive visualization. And it's not like, you're tricking yourself into thinking it. You're believing that that's the way it's going to be, and you expect that that's the way it's going to be. So you, like you were saying, it's true. That's the way it works out. It's just really tough to have that belief in yourself, and I think it takes a lot of work to get there.
It takes a purified nervous system.
Purified nervous system. I like
Yeah.
that. I
That
like that.
that's really what it takes
Sorry, I'm
to
writing that down.
be able to have emotional regulation. I believe it starts with the nervous system and the fascia.
Yeah. So is this something you speak with all your clients now? Has this changed
Yes.
your training style and tactics?
Absolutely, entirely. So now I focus on working in while working out. So as I'm coaching them, I'm actually having this kind of communication with them. And I'm making sure I'm addressing them as a whole and never only the physical body. So, for example, are you familiar with rebounding?
I play basketball, so yes.
Okay, yeah, like so rebounding, like jumping up and down, right? Is
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
the same term in basketball? Okay.
Yeah.
So in like somatic practices, rebounding, it releases stagnant energy. It's helping
Okay.
reduce trauma. Oh, speaking of, so this was something I was explaining to my client. Do you have kids?
I do, yes.
How old are they?
16 and about to be 14.
Okay, so I have a 10-year-old, and over like the course of watching him grow up, I noticed like he throws tantrums, and he's throwing these tantrums to release emotions, because the way he would move his body was very specific to the particular emotion he was feeling. And then it just clicked to me one day. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, adults don't throw tantrums. That's why we're messed up." We need to be throwing tantrums, because like when we're angry or upset, we just escape it or avoid
Yeah.
it. We go on our phone or we do whatever we do, but we don't actually release it. So then when I'm coaching my clients, I'm really addressing like, how are you feeling? I know what you want to do today, but how do you want to feel? And when we're doing that and exercising that way, we start really intentionally moving the body while also being aware. So, body awareness, just as much as self awareness, is key. And the way I coach.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a guy, Daniel Negreanu, who's a professional poker player, and he's very, very good. And he was going into the psychology of everything. And he was talking about, like you're saying, the need for adults to throw tantrums. He didn't use that term, but he says, like, the reason why I can stay, present and focused. And he's in like 8 hour tournaments, 10, 12 hours for weekends and weeks at a time. Like, it's stressful. And he's like, if I'm angry, I be angry. If I'm sad, I be sad. Like, I let myself experience the emotion that I'm having so that I can do that and then move on, and I can get back to regulating and being in a calm space where I can, you know, understand what's going on, because, they've got millions of dollars on the line. And if, you lose focus for a little bit, like, that could be the difference between winning and losing. So the psychology piece was interesting to hear from him. It's amazing how many different aspects in walks of life all this hits. It hits every job, it hits every relationship, it hits everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that you adjusted everything you've done, and because you trained one way and then you went through this process and you changed everything. And it seems like, from what I can tell, that was a very positive change for you and for your clients.
It was, I think what was has been happening in my life is it was constantly preparing me for this moment, because I didn't neglect the physical when I started putting these new changes in. I still train my clients to build muscle and overall body recomposition. That's still priority to me because we can't just focus on emotions only,
Yeah.
And so
That's a
both.
big that's a big piece. And we say here, and I say we because Tim joined me with this to start. He's still, he's still part of it. But there are four main areas of health that we see. It's we have the physical piece of it, your nutrition, your recovery, but then it's the mindset and the mental side of it, and that's the hardest part and the most important part. The other stuff is easier to take care of when the mind is headed in the right direction. And we usually talk about, like, find your why, find your focus, find your reason that you want to do all this stuff. Because if it's a number on a scale, that's not gonna be sustainable. And then once you hit that number, then what? Like, it's not there. Um, and there's a guy I spoke to who's coming on the show in a week or two, Nick, who started around 600 pounds, and he's down to in the 300s now. And his goal shifted from, like, I need to hit a number on a scale, to a lifestyle change, to a health change, to an over. So it's mindset, and the numbers are just going to take him where he goes. He's not going to stop exercising once you get to a certain number. I mean, that's now who he is. He's somebody who eats well. He takes care of himself. I haven't had to talk with him, so I don't know all aspects of it yet, but I thought about it with him, and it's like, the number doesn't even matter anymore. You've changed your lifestyle, so you'll get where you want to go, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you guys focus on those four things.
Yeah,
When
and I think it's the most important thing. And it's not, there's no end goal. I mean, it's a lifestyle, and you go till you're dead, until you're not around anymore. It allows you to enjoy each day, each relationship, each moment as much as possible when you are um doing all the things that you need to do to get the most out of life. And that's the purpose of what we're doing here, is try to give as many different perspectives as possible. And Karlla, yours is a very unique perspective that we haven't had on here. So I am so excited that we're able to have this conversation.
I share your excitement. This is the first time I'm actually having a conversation like this. You're
Really?
my first podcast, Derek.
Oh, wow, Karlla, this is awesome. I'm so happy that we were the first ones. Is
Yeah.
that a brain on the wall behind you?
It's a brain and a heart.
Oh, look at that. That's incredible. You got to
Yeah.
go on YouTube if you're not on YouTube, Health Movement Podcast on YouTube. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Did you design that yourself?
I did. I designed the whole office. So the reason I put the brain and the heart is to remind people that it's not just about the mind, but also the heart. And when you were referring to the mind, I like to talk about the mind a lot as well, but I addressed it in three parts. And that's the mind isn't just our brain, it's also our heart and our gut, because they're all communicating with each other.
Can you go a
So,
little deeper into that for me?
oh yeah, sure. So for example, our gut based off of um where our emotional health is, it's interfering with what we're eating, so then that's sending communication to our brain, like they're literally
Yeah.
always communicating with each other. So for example, if we're overusing our mental body, then our heart is underused, and then our gut is most likely doing something as well. So it's just always figuring out where the person's at, meeting them where they're at, and addressing it in those three parts instead of just brain. Because when we always address the brain only, we're like imprisoning them in that kind of logical state or analytical state and forcing them to analyze more and more. If I'm going to talk about the brain, I like to focus on the psyche, not just brain and positive thinking.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. And when you think about something as simple as like stomach ulcers, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I think the most common cause of that is high levels of stress, which don't come from
Mhm.
food or anything. That's your
Yeah.
brain messing with you. And then, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's definitely a good way to look at it. Um, well, Karlla, I don't want to steal any more of your time. I really, really appreciate you hopping on here with us.
My
Is
pleasure.
there anything we didn't touch on that you were hoping to cover?
We touched on it all, it seems
No, good,
like.
good, good. So how can people get in touch with you, or reach out to you?
Yeah, they can follow me on any of the Instagrams, either my personal page, which is Karlla Rock, KarllaRoc, or the gym's page. I have a wellness facility, which is Sonovi Wellness on IG.
How do you spell that?
Sonovi Wellness,
COV Wellness. All right.
or Results of Consistency is the other IG.
Of consistency. And you are based out of New Jersey?
Yes.
So if people want to hop in and find you, they would look you up in New Jersey and come down and see you.
Yes,
All right.
Sonovi Piscataway.
Okay. All right. I will put all of that in the show notes. Um,
Yeah.
Karlla, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to hop on here with us. This was
Oh,
this was awesome. This was a lot of fun.
I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself. I did too, Derek. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. You can take the time to give us a follow, leave some comments. I learned a ton from Karlla here, so I would love to hear what you guys took away from this, because this this was definitely a cool conversation that I appreciate and I will remember for a long time. So thank you, Karlla.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.